I think I felt when I was a student that there was a lot of make the pretty painting and it'll work out. And now I'm like I tell my students, like, it's a hustle. Like it is, it's hard. You got to be thinking about it. And okay, social media is not working anymore. What's your new marketing strategy? How's that portfolio looking? Are you going to present yourself professionally? All of these things with an urgency because our times require that. Yeah. But also all creative endeavors have always required that, right? Mm-hmm. You look at any of these big names and successful people. I mean, you look at the way that your books have worked out or your freelance photography. It didn't happen because you were just hanging out, right? Yeah. Like you really had to push hard.
Well, and I do think that's that's a contradiction within the visual art. That's more of a problem, I think, in film, people tend to be very outgoing. And so, because it's a collaborative medium. And so you don't survive at all if you're an introvert. Yeah. But like an illustration or something, you're basic. I mean, you're not this way. I mean, and I certainly, you have to learn how to get out. You do. Where a lot of people are like, I was that guy who liked to sit in the back of the class and draw. Yeah.
Or you hire an agent.
Or you hire an agent, you'll get out. Well, you have good enough work that you can have an agent.
Right.
I mean,
double-edged sword. There.
Yeah. Well, and that, of course, like that's one thing that was, again, never talked about when I was in school is like agents and how they're different and finding a good agent that's a good match. Right. And I went through like 3 before I really started making money, quite frankly. Yeah. You know? And the third one, partially because it was like more as a commercial agent rather than an editorial agent. Yeah. And they jived with my work. Yeah. So all of a sudden my day rate went from $600 to $5,000. $5,000 a day. And that was like I could make something of a living. I have to admit, while I was working for them, I realized I didn't want to do it anymore though. Yeah. That was like, that was kind of like killed the love, killed the joy. Interesting. I get a $5,000 check. I'm like, that was not worth it. But agents, different kinds of agents. Again, that's a similar conversation. That's where the outgoing, but you need to put yourself out there even to get the agent. Right.
Yeah, you do. And I've had an agent a couple of times and I recently left an agent and it was, they were very kind to me and they were nice, but there's that fit, that kind of goes back into what, like that stubborn entrepreneurial kind of sense, that I think artists have to have, where I was able to get some work with them and some fun things. But also I wanted to be in the mix more. Yeah. And I was looking at contracts and I was looking at opportunities. Even my own marketing that I was doing in addition to what they were doing, where I was like, I don't feel like I'm being represented. I was being represented fine, but not accurately, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like they were doing the best they could in their specific way, but for me, it was like someone was painting a portrait of me that wasn't quite accurate. Yeah. And I was like, I'll just draw myself things, like I'll do, that level of stubbornness and so I found that it was better for my career goals but also like my artistic mindset to have ownership over that. And again, like when we're talking about attributes for creative life and creative, endeavors, there's a sense of ownership over yourself and your style and your career that I think is really important for me. Yeah. I recently had a conversation with somebody. I've got a project that I've just finished up. That's I did my own version of the Stations of the Cross, the Catholic tradition of the crucifixion, and I was talking to a curator, and they said something that, when we talk about advice to get, like I rarely do people come up and like actually give me advice. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just too aggressive or stubborn that they just
because you punched people in the face.
Will Smith. No,
Will Smith. You're just wrong.
Yeah. Can you imagine me doing that?
No, most docile guy in the entire world.
Yeah. But he said this is a project that I think, he's like, it's obviously it's really important to you, which it is. And he says, I think there's a place for it. You should be really careful who you involve. And he didn't go into detail. He didn't name names or whatever else, but he was like, you need to be careful and be protective of this. Yeah. And I thought in that moment, like that was not at all what I expected them to say. In fact, I was hoping that they would say, come show it at my gallery. Yeah. But hearing that, I was like, that guy sees me. He sees like right through what I'm like, as I'm trying to talk about the art, talk about what I'm doing. He's like, you need to like stick to your guns on this and do this thing. And I have been selective, and I've got a small group of people who have have been incredibly insightful and helpful, and but also they're in my inner circle on that because we all have a shared vision for it, and I can say, yeah, like what that person says, I totally respect and I'll go with.
Yeah.
And they know me and they know what I'm trying to do, and I know them and I know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's why this works. Agents and all of those things are the same way, where it's like a sense of, do you see what I'm trying to do? This isn't accounting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't come at the end of the spreadsheet. It comes at the end of like there's a whole person here trying to create a vision of something. And if I'm getting pulled away from that, then the joy of it all leaves.
Yeah. Well, it's different levels. And again, it's where you, and the longer you're in art, like I think when you're first starting out, you're like, whoa, we're going to do a project together.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, that's just going back to film.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, well, I'm going to get my girlfriend involved. I'm going to do this person and my buddy and this. Yeah. And then like you do it. You're like, oh my goodness. I had this happen to a client of mine. Yeah. Like his girlfriend called me up mid shoot and like was screaming at me at the top of her lungs because he was having a problem with his camera, but he figured it out. Yeah. And then he came up to me later, was like, sorry, I had no idea. That's a dimension of my girlfriend I did not see.
Interesting.
That like she would just totally lose it. I mean, I've literally been yelled at that bad maybe 3 times in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And he's like, so yeah, I'm not going to involve her in any future projects. Yeah. So, but it's, I mean, yeah, like it's, you really get more and more selective.
Yeah.
And you get more and more like particular if you're going to work with. I mean, that's where you hear like stories like Woody Allen's worked with the same people for 30 years or something. Can you just kind of find a good fit that works for you? Yeah. And like the people who work well with Woody Allen wouldn't be the same people who work well with like Michael Bay or something. And that's like, not that like, they're like, there's inferior things. They're just trying to accomplish different stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, like they should do a remake, you know, they should do Hannah and Her Sisters 2 directed by Michael Bay and see how it turns out. Yeah. You know, be a very different movie.
Right.
Like I have no idea how that even happened, but anyway, or they should hire Woody Allen to do Independence Day. I can't remember if Michael Bay did that one. Independence Day. Sounds like
an AI project.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, like Woody Allen does Independence Day.
Right.
And like the Will Smith character is Woody Allen. Yeah. Like the aliens are coming. I'm just so nervous. I just so much anxiety. Death isn't before me. They're exterminating humanity. What do I do?
See, like I'm not in that film industry as much. And so like the outsider view me is like, oh, that sounds really interesting.
That is actually hilarious. There should be at least a Saturday Night Live skit of Woody Allen in Independence Day facing like the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, and
in a disaster film.
And that's maybe a good example too. Like when I'm talking about these communities that you build and people I trust, it's not about somebody that mirrors you exactly. Yeah. Right. Because there's some of my favorite collaborators right now and some of my best friends, very different than like our art approaches are very different. Our mindset about it. And I love that. I love being able to spend time with people who are looking through that different lens about similar projects and sharing their art but there's a trust in the sense of like they're not going to try to change you, maybe, you know?
Well, I guess it's like respect. And honestly, that would happen. Like honestly, like Michael Bay was on a Woody Allen movie. Yeah. He would respect Woody Allen and like be like, I don't know, maybe you could do a fight sequence here.
Yeah. He's not going to try to make him.
He's not going to drive it. Just maybe like say like a fight sequence might be fun.
Right.
You know, and like Woody Allen, if he was on a Michael Bay movie, he'd be like, maybe this dialogue could be a little spruced up a bit, you know? And so that would happen. But I guess the danger is kind of like people who don't do that. And they're just like, what do you mean? This is like a dumb movie. I'm out of here. Or like they just kick against the whole thing. I've had editors like that. I mean, again, totally unnamed, whatever. I try to keep it vague, but it's like, I had an editor on, and this book took 2 years to put together, which is like twice as long as what it should be. Yeah. And I just felt I was fighting him every step. Yeah. And he just didn't want to do what I wanted to do. Yeah. He wanted to do, I mean, how can I say this without being totally dismissive? He had just been hired. He was a new editor. And he knew nothing about art. I have no idea why this publishing company hired him. And he knew nothing about writing or anything. And I remember even a meeting, we were kind of a crisis meeting because it was just like the book wasn't moving forward. And like, I grabbed a bunch of books that he had made during the 2 years we had been together.
Yeah.
And in the meeting with the publisher, who's the big boss, like the guy with the check, he's the guy who really matters.